In this video, we're going to talk about ferrets, a fascinating and often misunderstood member of the animal kingdom. We'll explore everything from their biology and diet to their surprisingly complex social lives. Okay, let's dive into this. But before we get into all the details, you gotta know them by one of their most charming nicknames, the Noodle Cat. I mean, it just perfectly captured their whole slinky, playful, kind of goofy nature, doesn't it? So what exactly is a ferret? Where do they even come from? Let's break down the fundamentals. Okay, so ferrets are mammals, and they're part of the mustelid family. That means they're related to weasels, otters, and even badgers. But here's the crucial thing to remember. They aren't a wild animal. They're actually the domesticated form of the European polecat, a process that started, believe it or not, about 2,500 years ago. So, while their wild ancestors are running around Europe, the pet ferret is now found pretty much all over the globe. Anywhere they can be legally kept as pets. And hey, if you're thinking about bringing one into your home, you're signing up for a real friendship. With the right care and a safe place to live, these little guys can be part of your family for a good 7 to 10 years. And wow, can they build a family? A female ferret, which is called a gill, is an induced ovulator. That's a fancy way of saying that the act of mating is what triggers her to release eggs. She can have 2, maybe even 3 litters a year, and each one usually has between 3 and 7 babies, which are adorably called kits. Alright, let's switch gears and talk about food. And honestly, their diet is probably the most important and the most specific part of taking care of them. This right here is the single most critical thing you need to know about a ferret's diet. They are obligate carnivores. All that means is they absolutely must eat meat to survive. Their bodies just aren't built to digest plants or get any nutrients from them. So what does that actually look like? Well, their diet has to be packed with high-quality animal protein, somewhere between 30 and 40%. And it needs about 15 to 20% animal fat. But look at that fiber, less than 3%. That's because they have a super short and fast digestive system. They just can't process plant matter. So for them, it's all about that nutrient-dense meat. So what does a ferret actually do all day? Well, it's a pretty simple routine, but when they are awake, they are really awake. You might think they're kind of lazy, but really, ferrets are just masters of conserving energy. They spend about 14 to 18 hours a day. That's 75% of their day completely asleep. But that other 25%, usually around dawn and dusk, that is pure, full throttle energy. They get super curious, incredibly playful, and they're ready to explore absolutely everything. And what does all that energy look like? Well, if you ever see a ferret doing this wild, almost chaotic-looking dance, hopping sideways, bumping into things, arching its back, don't worry. That's not aggression. That is the famous weasel war dance, and it's a sign of pure, absolute joy. It's their way of screaming, "Let's play!" And that war dance, it often comes with its own special soundtrack. It's this happy, soft, clucking sound called duking. It's the noise they make when they're super excited or curious. You could say it's basically the ferret version of a laugh. Now, unlike their wild ancestors who were pretty solitary, domesticated ferrets are actually very social animals. And get this, a group of them is called a business, and their group dynamics are just fascinating. So, in a business of ferrets, is there like a CEO? Is there one alpha ferret calling all the shots and keeping everyone else in line? Well, it's not a strict hierarchy like you'd see in a wolf pack. But as this ferret owner on Reddit put it so well, a sort of boss-adjacent ferret does tend to emerge. It's usually a really smart or protective ferret, a mafia mama or a guard ferret, who steps in to break up fights and just generally keep the peace in the group. Okay, to wrap this all up, let's run through 5 quick and surprising facts that make these little animals even more interesting. Let's break these down. First up, their name literally comes from the Latin word for little thief, which is perfect for an animal that loves to steal and hide your keys. Second, they are incredibly deep sleepers. So deep you can pick them up and they won't wake up. It can be a little scary for new owners, but it's totally normal. Third, they've been our partners for centuries. They were used for ferreting, which means they worked with hunters to chase rabbits out of their burrows. Fourth, their eyesight is actually pretty bad. They don't have good depth perception, so they rely almost completely on their amazing sense of smell. And finally, here's a weird one. There's a genetic link where ferrets with white markings on their head have a really high chance of being born deaf. Alright, that is it for this video, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.